The Leap Foundation proudly presents the Meet the Mentor podcast with Dr. Bill Dorfman. Dr. Bill is a TV host, New York Times best-selling author, two-time Guinness World Book record holder, fitness guru, celebrity cosmetic dentist, and philanthropist who founded the Leap Foundation. Here's Dr. Bill.
Hey, Dr. Bill here. So I'm excited to do this Meet the Mentor today with my dear friend Ed, who actually sent his daughter to Leap last year, and she was a superstar. But before we do, Leap has a big change this year, guys. Leap Week at USC. I never thought I would say that before, but yes, indeed, we're switching from UCLA to USC. Why? Well, they are turning the UCLA dormitory area that we normally hold our students in into an Olympic Village. So we will not be at UCLA this year. We will be at USC. The dates for Leap are July 21st to the 27th. If you want more information on the program, obviously go to www.leapfoundation.com. And we've got big speakers this year. Confirmed. Now, that means that they'll do it unless a big movie or something comes up. But Amy Adams, love her. Anthony Hopkins, love him. Shay Mitchell, love her. Paula Abdul, every year. Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. Taylor Zachar Perez from Red, White, and Royal Blue. So those are just a few of the people that will be coming, but we should have an amazing program. So please go on our website, sign up so you are not left out. So Leap Week started because we didn't want Leap to just be like one and done. You know, students come and then they don't get any new content for a whole year. So a bunch of my friends and a bunch of our mentors have participated in this. And Ed is not only a friend, he's also in my YPO forum group. And again, he also sent his daughter to Leap. So he can talk a little bit to those of you who are parents and listening to this and are wondering, like, should I or shouldn't I? And I'm sure Ed will say you should, but I'll let that come straight from him. So let me give you his bio. Ed Renwick currently serves as Divisional Vice President, Head of Strategy at Harbor Freight Tools, the nation's largest tool retailer. Prior to his current position, he served as CEO of Raineth Holdings, at the time one of the nation's largest owners and lessors of affordable single housing, and he grew that business from zero to over 1,700 houses and then helped sell the business. He also has lectured about business strategy at Stanford University and UCLA. In 2013, the mayor of Los Angeles appointed him to Los Angeles Board of Harbor Commissioners, where he serves as vice president and audit committee chair of the Port of Los Angeles. For those of you that don't know, that's the largest port in the Western Hemisphere. He graduated from Stanford University with an A.B. in history, cum laude. He holds 2 degrees from Harvard University, a JD from the law school, and a master's of public policy from the Kennedy School. While at Harvard, he was awarded the Henry Luce Foundation Fellowship and the Kennedy Fellowship. He's a member of the California Bar Association, inactive, doesn't practice law, and lives in Los Angeles with his wife and 3 lovely daughters. And I can attest to the fact that all 4 of them are lovely. So Ed, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, and I think one of the most unusual things about your career path is, you know, most people of our generation kind of went to school and just did one thing. You know, like I know that every other dentist I went to dental school with is pretty much just a dentist. Everybody I know that went to law school is just a lawyer, but that doesn't define your career at all. How did all of the, variety and everything that happened in your career actually happen?
So I'm glad you brought that up. My life has followed a pattern of opportunity. So as neat opportunities have come up, I've jumped on them. And I think it's super important. When I was in school, when I was in college, I felt like there was a huge pressure to have a plan. And so when I first graduated from college, I got a job at a very prestigious place, Goldman Sachs. And I was an analyst at Goldman Sachs, and I worked like a dog. And then I decided I wanted to go to law school. So went to law school, and everyone in my law school class was going to go off to go work in a law firm. And I realized that was a path that I felt trapped, that I was going to be going in a single direction. And I didn't want to do that. So I did two things. The first thing I did is I said, you know what? I'm really interested in public policy. Let me go to the Kennedy School as well. So I diversified my educational experience, and that proved very helpful. And the second thing I did was I decided right out of law school, I was not going to be a lawyer. So I turned down the big law firm job that I had. I turned down a clerkship to go work for a judge. And I got the opportunity to go work for a battery company in inland China. And at the time, I was the only white guy in the city of Chongqing, a small town of 30 million people. The town is so big that when I was there, it was just a city. Now it's been raised to provincial level status. It's so big. And I had the opportunity to suddenly work at this battery factory in the middle of nowhere. I lived in the factory. It was a total adventure. I mean, it was not the cleanest place in the world to live. There were rats in the kitchens, and it was certainly hard living, but it was so exciting and so interesting. And from there, I followed a random path. I worked at the Boston Consulting Group, and I came back to America after being there. And then I worked in private equity for a long time. And then I said, you know what? Let me start something. So I started a housing business. I got the entrepreneurial bug, which Dr. Bill, you know all about. And so I built up, and I wanted to solve a public policy problem, which is affordable housing. So I wanted to come up with a new way of providing affordable housing that did not rely upon government subsidies. And so we did. We built up eventually 1,700 houses and sold those off.
You know what I love about this though, Ed? I always say, like, if I can get students to walk out a leap with these two things, I feel like I did my job. Number one is don't wait for opportunities, make them. And I think that there were several chances that you had to make opportunities. And number two, I always tell students, when you get an opportunity, don't take it, master it.
Yes, that's
And
exactly
I
it.
think that's really where you excelled, because you went from one industry to another and literally mastered those industries. And, I'd love to talk about how you actually educate yourself and prepared yourself for all of these, because they were radical changes. I mean, none of these industries that you worked in had anything to do with the prior one.
That's a great point. So I think, first thing is I learned this early on when I was working for the Boston Consulting Group. Nobody knows anything. So at least in business. So I was working at this, I got hired, we got brought in to try to figure out how to make better paper. I know nothing about engineering. I know nothing about making better paper. But what I do know is that, one, I can listen to the experts. And so I pulled together a team of really smart people that worked at the factory and knew everything about it. And I started asking a ton of questions. And I was just interested and enthusiastic about learning what they did. And if you listen over time, you get a mass of facts. And what you have to do is look at the complex facts and say, you know what? Let's ignore all that noise, and let's focus on these 3 or 4 facts that are really important, that really drive outcome, and focus on those facts. So you got to collect as many facts as you can, and then decide what's not important and ignore that. Listen to a bunch of people, read a bunch of books, read a bunch of articles, figure out what's important, and throw away the rest. Another specific example of that was in China. Like, the company I was working for had historically been very profitable and now was super unprofitable. We took, and the company didn't know why. And I studied and studied and studied. I couldn't figure out why, like what changed. And then I figured it out. What changed is the price of lead. And I figured out that it was the price of lead that changed because I happened to be reading a article in the International Battery Man magazine. I mean, I was desperate for information. Like International Battery Man is a bizarre publication that only people who care about batteries are going to read. But I was looking for every possible source of information, and I suddenly saw that the international price of lead was lower than the Chinese price of lead. And then I figured out the reason for that was the Chinese government wasn't letting when the Chinese government, that the Chinese lead manufacturers were selling their lead abroad secretly. And then I knew the answer was I have to solve the price of lead. And so we came up with a solution to the price of lead.
You know, when we started Discus Dental, we grew that with my whitening company from 0 to $1.3 billion. And I was an integral part of the R&D and developing the product and all that. But when I was sitting in the boardrooms and they were talking about the earnings of the company and the EBITDA, and I'm like, I absolutely had no idea what they were talking about. They don't teach you that in dental school. So what I did is I went back and I started taking extension courses at UCLA in business, and just like when you went into a company that was manufacturing something that you didn't know about, you hire a bunch of experts. That's why we believe so strongly in mentors at Leap. And, I'm sure you've all heard this, but it's true. If you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
Yes.
You need to surround yourself with experts and mentors and figure out, what the best strategy is. And, the ability to do that has made you incredibly successful in pretty much every industry that you've entered in.
And the key is to be not ashamed of your ignorance. So a lot of people go into a situation and they want to hide the fact that they don't know what they're talking about. I try to go into a situation and advertise I don't know what I'm talking about. And but what a lot of young people don't realize is that other people are more interested in sharing their expertise than hearing about your own. So if you can get those people to talk, to share their expertise, they're going to love you because you're listening to them and making them feel great about them. And you're just going to learn a ton of stuff. And then you make your own decision on what causes what's important. You don't have to buy into the cause that they think, but you listen to them and make your own decision.
It's a great point. And from housing to harbors to sewage to paper, we're in the tool business now, right?
Now I'm in the tool business. Exactly.
Let's talk about the tool business. And I'd love for you to share, kind of what you bring to the table in that industry and how you've made yourself so successful in the industry that you never, ever in your wildest dreams imagined you'd be in.
So it's funny. Yeah, it's exactly true. So I'm not a tool guy. I don't own any tools. I don't know anything about them per se. But a friend of mine owns this company. It's called Harbor Freight Tools. And we have 1,500 stores and we're adding, 3 new stores a week and 1 new tool a day to our portfolio. So it's growing like a weed. And what I try to do is I've come in and there's, my job is strategy. So my job is to think about what's the next big opportunity and what's the next big threat. And I noticed what I try to do is I try to look at the company itself and say, what does everybody else focus on? And then I try to think about something else entirely. So everyone at the company knows, like, there's such a passion for tools. All great companies have a passion. And Harbor Freight Tools is a great company, and it has a passion for tools. From the CEO all the way down, everybody loves tools, and they know everything about tools. I remember once, like the first day on the job, I got into a conversation with the CEO, and he spent 45 minutes telling me about anvils. Like, I didn't know anvils were still a thing, the thing that you make horseshoes on. Right. Like, we sell anvils. Who knew, right? I had no idea. But what I did know was that no one was thinking about the customers and no one was thinking about the store. So when you think about what our company is, it's the intersection of tools, stores, and customers. And so what I needed to do was think about customers. And we started studying it and we found out that our customer mix had changed over time. That one of the things that's different about our customers than in the past is that we now have a base of fanatical customers who spend a lot of money with the store. So we have a lot of customers, period. But a relatively small portion of those customers really drive our growth. And they're people who buy a lot of tools every year. And their shopping habits are going to be different.
It's the old 80-20 rule, right?
It
20%
is the
of
old
your
80.
customers are 80% of your revenue, right?
Exactly. It's the 80-20 rule. And it has huge implications because it's very easy to think about your average customer, but your average customer doesn't matter. It's your exceptional customer that matters. So you have to ask yourself, not about the guy who shows up 3 times a year, but you got to ask yourself about the guy who shows up every week, because it's the guy who shows up every week, what they're looking for, that you really have to appeal to. And it has a huge implication. One of the most interesting things is that the most common question asked in our stores by to our employees is, do you know where I can find X tool? Where in the store is X tool? Here's the thing. Our customers that drive our business, they come to our stores every week. They know where everything is. The one thing our store employees should know about the person who's asking them where something is that person is probably not an important customer. I'm not saying we shouldn't treat them well. We should treat them very well. We should be inviting to everybody. But it does make a difference in how much time you spend with them. Because what you really got to do is...
And then, of course, the golden key is to turn those customers into your super customers, right?
That's true. That's true.
So, I mean, that's really the goal. So, with all of the different jobs that you've had over time, now you're at the tool company. What do you see your future looking like, career-wise?
It's a really interesting question. Like, to date, I've never really had a plan. And I still don't have a plan. I know that everything I've done has been super fun and super interesting. And I love where I'm at right now. And I have no intention of ever leaving. And yet other things will come up and they'll be exciting and I'll jump to them. So I would encourage people, especially in now where everything changes so quickly. You were mentioning this when we started off. My dad is a lawyer. He's 90 years old. He's still practicing law. He has worked for the same law firm for 65 years. Not only has he had the same career, he's had the same address, the same business card for 65 years. The only thing new about his business card is about 20 years ago, he added an email address. That's it. Nothing else has changed. Awesome. That's not the way of the world today. People are going to be changing careers. They need to be open to opportunity. Right. So what I would encourage the youth of today is, don't worry about knowing what you're going to do. Instead, develop a broad skill set. And the most important set of skills are things you learn in kindergarten. The people that don't advance in their careers are generally not the people that lack expertise. It's not expertise that drives you moving up in your career. They lack people skills. They lack good judgment. They lack wisdom.
100%.
Those are the skills to develop. And you develop them by, yes, you got to take good classes, and in terms of substantive expertise, what you want to learn is breadth. And you want to learn to be able to figure out what's important and what's not. I was a history major, which prepared me for absolutely nothing. But I think it was a great thing to study because history, if people keep writing books about Abraham Lincoln, right? There's nothing new that we know about Abraham Lincoln. There's nothing new, but you can still take an innovative take on Abraham Lincoln, not because you have new facts, but because you decide that there's a different fact that caused another fact, that causation is different. And so read a bunch of books on Abraham Lincoln and think about the differences, how different authors think about what caused what, and decide for yourself what you think caused what. And then that's the skill you need to develop in business.
You're 100% right. There's a statistic that 90% of the people that fail in business don't fail for lack of knowledge. They fail for lack of being able to establish working relationships with people. For those of you who don't know, Ed and I are in a group called YPO. YPO is the Young Presidents Organization. We're not young anymore, so now we are in YPO Gold. They should just drop the G and call it YPO Gold. But one of the greatest benefits of YPO is that in a chapter of, say, 50, 60, 70 people, there are smaller groups of 8, which we call a forum. And we meet once a month in our forum for about 3 hours. We have dinner and we just talk about life and business. And it's really, really a great bonding experience, but it's also a great way to exchange ideas in a very safe, coveted kind of environment where you know that everybody in that forum is there and interested in your best outcome, your best interest.
Yes.
And you form a very deep kind of friendship. And we actually teach masterminding at LEAP because I've helped several young students form their own mastermind groups as they go through school and start to enter into the job world. It's a very, very powerful way. And especially in today's day and age where you get all this extraneous noise from social media and DMs and this and that, you have to not listen to the garbage and really focus on listening to the people who matter and count in your life. And that's what this forum experience is like. And I'm going to leave and let Ed tell you a little bit about his daughter Rainie's experience at LEAP.
So Rainey, first of all, my only regret is that I'm so blessed to be in the forum with you, Dr. Bill. And and not only am I in the forum with you, I'm also a client. Check these choppers out; they look awesome. But my only regret is that I'm too old to get into LEAP because I listened to Rainie's experience last year and last summer, she loved it. It was just a transformative experience for her. And I look at the lineup of people that you have coming up. And it's both, I'm jealous of her because she gets to go back. I don't get to go. And it's killing me. I keep waiting for you to raise the age.
Well, you can come as a mentor on Friday.
Okay, I'll come as a mentor. That I would love to do.
I would love that. We'll have so the program always culminates on Friday with something called a mentor workshop where we get 110 or more different professionals from all walks of life, tools people, we get doctors, lawyers, firefighters, I mean, you name it. And the students sit at a table and every 30 minutes we rotate and they get to really, talk about the challenges that you've had in your career, how you overcame them, and give these students a little bit more insight as to, what the real world is like. So you are absolutely invited as a mentor to come to LEAP.
Well, sign me up. I'll definitely do that.
All right. Well, in closing, just remember, LEAP this year at USC, July 21st to the 27th. It will be awesome. Dr. Bill, over and out.
To learn more about the LEAP Foundation, go to leapfoundation.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LEAP Foundation or on Instagram at LEAP Foundation. Listen to the Meet the Mentor podcast with Dr. Bill Dorfman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.